Oh no, where's the Skype? Where's the Skype call? And also, where's my pretty face? Well, alright then. Sorry about the delay, ladies and gentlemen, but we are finally here with another episode of Meet a Burn FGC. Thank you for taking the time to stick with us while we're setting up some technical sides of things. But we do really have a great show in store for you. A lot of information to get out there. But before I get ahead of myself here, let me introduce my co-host, Miss Katie Cujo. How are you?
Hey everybody, how are you?
And Mr. Alex Valle himself has graced us with his presence here on this episode. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming on. So, what's been up?
Oh man, what's been up? That's a pretty open question, huh?
Gotta break the ice somehow.
Yeah. What's been up, man? It is scorching hot over here in SoCal. I'm sweating balls, but but yeah, that's one of the unperks of living. Besides that, I'm just finally done with a lot of the trade show events, so I got a little bit more time to focus on the local scene. So, but appreciate you guys having me.
Hey man,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. You know, Alex has definitely accomplished so many different things. You know, I mean, when you think of historically, the best Street Fighter American player, Alex is always at the top of the list. You know, I mean, really, when did you get interested? I mean, what is your start with all this? Because I know you really put a lot of emphasis into playing in the California arcades. You know, so is that basically how you got started?
Oh man, how I got started. So, I mean, before playing in the arcades, I was a Nintendo freak like everybody else that got a Nintendo when Nintendo came out, if you were alive then. So, um, and at the time, it's just you beating the computer, right? And there
Uh-huh.
was never really like playing versus anybody else unless it's like for high score or a sports game, right? So, once I was old enough, so my parents would take me to like random arcades or Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, like way back in the days. Uh, I just got fascinated by like just beating each of the high scores at arcades, and to fast forward to like 1990, 1991 is when Street Fighter 2 just like was at every arcade, and there was like 10 of them. So, and there was like, what the hell is this? And people are crowding these things. And you don't really see a crowd on any arcade cabinet
right.
until this game came out. And I was 13 at the time. 13. Okay, that's pretty damn young. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I didn't know what I was doing. People were just picking whatever characters. I didn't even know about strategy. It was just another game to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that just brought my curiosity level through the roof, and I'm like, I have to play this game. Everybody's playing it. Everybody thinks they're good at it. So, started to play and beat the computer with like every character. And I mean, in those games, it was pretty hard because there was only one way you could do it. If you were playing like against Zangief or any other character. So, and then I started to play people, and I, just started to do the strategies versus computer I was doing versus people, just all in my head. I would like dream this stuff. I'm like, oh, this worked versus computer. This could probably work against this player. And back then, people weren't really like doing strategies. They were just trying to like hit you with anything, not blocking, moving forward. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I learned really quick because of just my my competitive edge. I had competition like stuck in my head since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I want to beat Super Mario Brothers with one life. I want to beat Ninja Gaiden with one life. So I want to play this game, not losing around. So I just had little goals, and I just learn really quick that way because a lot of people weren't taking it seriously yet until they did, and that's when I started meeting like the top players, and everything else from there was like history. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but that's kind of like how I got started with fighting games.
Okay. All right. So you're fairly young. Just became a little teenager, and Street Fighter Two just came out. Um, but you had this competitive drive that pretty much little to like nobody had. Street Fighter Two was like, oh, flashy effects, and I get to throw fireballs that melt your face, right? But to you it was something different. Now, from there to actually wanting to take something like that so seriously, how did you adapt so quickly? Like,
Oh, just taking it back to wanting to beat Super Mario Brothers with one life. You kind of dedicate yourself to not dying, right? And
mm,
you know, when you would mess up, you get really mad, you get upset, you get all these feelings come into play, and you're like, "Damn, I suck," right? So like it's it's really depressing times when you're kind of like you're playing the game that you love, but then again, you're so hard on yourself.
mm-hmm.
And that's how I learned really quick because I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like to lose. I didn't like to get beat, and that's how it just came out. Like I was so competitive. My uncle was the one that really got me into this stuff because, I would ask my dad, "Hey, could you, give me a Nintendo? Hey, could you give me like a Genesis, whatever?" And my uncle was the one that would kind of like, watch me play and make sure that, yeah, and play with me at the same time and make sure I wasn't like abusing it because I would play for like all day almost, and he would be like, "Hey, you're playing too long," and he would like beat me. He was actually the originator of beating like Super Mario Brothers before I did. Like he would beat it at a 7-Eleven, and I'm like, he actually had a crowd around him, and I'm like, what the hell? Think about that. That was like 1985, 1986 or something like that. It was a long time ago. And so he kind of already knew what was up with like once games got into console, and he saw how mad I would get or how like ambitious I got trying to beat him and um, any of my friends that would come over. I wouldn't just like it wouldn't be just fun in games. I would
Right.
make sure they would leave miserable. So, yeah, it was like that. Like, oh, you bought that new game, and like I bet I can beat this game. Even I don't even have to have the game. I can go in your house and beat the game before you did. That's how crazy it was, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that did this. And I think Jabali was another guy that had this type of mindset when he was like the original wizard and all kinds of Nintendo games. I was like the same way. I'm sure a lot of people were, but as soon as I touched Street Fighter, that's it took it to the next level because there was no game like that.
So
So
then you said you played, the whole cast. You would like to try to beat the game using the whole cast, but what was it, that Ryu stood out among everyone else? I mean, I know he's got a lot of tools to use, but I mean, what was so special about that character?
No, as crazy as it sounds, like how I'm explaining beating the characters or beating the game with all these characters, right? And not losing and not trying to lose and all this stuff. I was still a super scrub back then. I wasn't like the best player at those times. There was already people ahead of the curve, like older than I was, that understand the logic and the strategies, and not letting people land combos and stuff. And those were like the Watsons and Tomos and stuff. And I didn't meet them until like 1995. All right, so I am trying to learn Street Fighter 2 in 1990, 1991. Champion Edition came out, and I didn't meet these top players yet. So I'm in my little bubble, thinking like I'm the hot shit, beating people around this area, until one of my good friends introduced me to like Watson, and I played him for the first time, and like he kicked my ass. Like, now here's the thing: as soon as I'm trying to develop like what's fun about this game for me, besides beating everybody, is like how I'm beating you. And initially, I was a Ken player because he could land jumping fierce, crouching fierce upper, and Ryu couldn't. Right? He would have to do the generic, jump in, hard kick, low forward, fireball. Right? Everybody did that, but nobody picked Ken. So I wanted to pick a character that was pretty flashy, had land cool combos that other characters didn't.
Uh huh.
But and as soon as like I couldn't do these things versus a good player. I was like, fuck. That kind of, you know, that got me thinking. I'm like, if I can't land this stuff on somebody that knows what they're doing, maybe, this is not the way I should be playing the game. It's just that everybody I played sucked. They were just letting me land stuff. But as soon as I played with Ryu, because like I just saw the way Watson and them were using him, I can control the entire pace of the match. I can rush down, I can zone, I can do anything. It was like, this is the character for me, and I was just trying my best to kind of mimic
what they were doing a little.
Remember what they were doing, and how they took these characters to the highest levels, and that really like inspired me and motivated me to get it going.
Cool.
Did you have any sort of like mentor?
Yeah, and I mean you've played Ryu, for so many years, and I mean won bazillions of tournaments and become like an infamous, the most aggressive Ryu player in the world. I mean, really, you've done so many amazing things with them. And I think now you're using Hugo a little bit too. So, I mean, you're getting into the grappler realm and, trying out some different things.
Yeah, going from character selection, I have a history of playing every single character. As much time I had in my youth, I had time to master every character in every Street Fighter. I mean, there's no joke. That's part of the job. Like some people can only play certain characters. We played every character. That's just the way it was. Like, I'll give you a good example. Like Justin Wong, when he came up, he mastered every single character in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Who can do that? You know what I'm saying? That's so many characters. Who has the time to do that? He did. And when he did that, he established his own style. And he applied it to every game he touches today. That's what I did back in the older Street Fighters. That's what Watson did, and Tomo, and John Choi, all those guys. We had knowledge with all those characters, and we had our own style to back it up. We can play these characters the way we wanted to. So, and me, I know it's kind of like funny, like a lot of people are saying, oh, you're playing a grappler now, it's just new for you. I'm like, absolutely not. So it's just me having fun with another character. I can pick up any character in the game and use it at its highest level as long as I have time for it. But like these days, I really don't have time for it, so I just have to choose wisely what gives me the most satisfaction to play it. So, I mean, what's me playing Ryu gonna do these days compared to like me using Hugo and doing awesome things with it? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
in a way, it's more of like showman stuff for people to get inspired to like, hey, why don't I give Hugo a chance? It's because a lot of players these days just see the black and white in characters. Oh, if I can't beat you like out of 5 games, this character sucks.
Right.
And I know we can talk for hours on that, so I'll let you guys go for the next question.
Well, speaking of inspiration, I want to rewind a bit. Was there anybody that you wanted to like, or anybody that you held as like a mentor growing up in the arcades and wanted to get better at Street Fighter? Like anybody to like look up to, or someone that you went to for tips or stuff?
Yeah, sure. There was 3 people actually. It was before John Choi. Okay, it was Tao Duong, which introduced me to Mike Watson. Mike Watson is probably the biggest mentor that I have. Jeff Schaefer as well. It was kind of like they were kind of like rivals at the time, or the Tomo era. Jeff Schaefer also mentored me in how to like, because he was the oldest out of all of us, and so he knew the deep strategies that we didn't. We just like were kids and just playing, and we're like, you don't get it. You're a kid. You don't get it. And I'm like, whatever, dude. But like after a while, everything he said clicked in. What does turtling mean? What does zoning mean? Aggressive, like all the stuff. Like for me, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna attack you. But he actually had it down to the science of what kind of style I choose to play versus certain matchups. And then, of course, John Choi. So I guess those players mentored me the most, inspired me the most, because without them, there was no way I could be prepared for international play, and that was the future. I had no idea I was going to be playing like Daigos and the Kurohashis and the KSKs and all the people down the road, and these guys prepared me to play anybody and anyone on this planet on the highest level.
Well, speaking about the lowest level, I remember I remember I played you in what was it? The Chicago tournament. It was 2 years ago. It was what tournament was that, Alex? That was oh my goodness,
uh,
it's Keats' tournament. It was in
yeah,
May.
UFGT?
UFGT.
Yeah, UFGT. I was like, oh, I made my way up to Alex Valle, and then he
Wasn't
was
wa-
like, he bought me out so fast.
wasn't
It
that
was
last year?
horrible.
Wasn't that last year?
um, yeah, I think
It
it
was last year.
was.
It was the
I think it
year.
was.
It was the year that I won.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
it was the
was.
year that you won. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was. It was. I think
that
me,
was a fun
you, and
tournament.
yeah, me, you, and Arturo were on that in that pool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was pretty crazy. I had to play Arturo, and it went to the last game, last round. I was pretty
it was
much.
intense.
It was his job to get me into losers, and if he didn't do that, then I had a really good chance of winning. No, because seriously, out of everybody in the tournament, and Dalsum was like the worst matchup for me at that time. And Arturo knows how to play that match correctly. Him and Filipino champ know how to play the Shoto match really well. So I mean, you can see Arturo's matchup versus Daigo back in the days, right? And then F champ, he just beat Daigo, right? So he knows that match to the T. But yeah, good times back then.
Yeah.
Good times.
So what was your first major tournament experience? Who did you use? What did you did you win, or if you can remember that far back?
Local tournament, I it was like a um, it was a video store. All right. I entered kind of late, and everybody picked Guile at the time, and I still try to pick Ken, and I could land my combos, but that it didn't matter because once that Sonic Boom was out, there's nothing I can do. So everybody just picked, Guile or Dulcim at the time, and I was very young, so I was like, man, those characters are so boring. So I got my ass kicked. But I still played the game. The people are figuring out really fast that those are the only two characters that were viable in the game, and Zangief, the people that didn't know how to get out of the tick throw. But yeah, that was my first experience in the local level. I guess in the major level, I got fourth, and that was in Vegas, and that was Street Fighter Alpha 1. That's like years later.
Was that the Battle by the Bay tournament, or what was?
No, this was a tournament in Circus Circus, and this is where I met John Choi for the first time.
Okay.
And Alpha 1 was a game where everything that suited my style started to work much more easier because I had air blocking, and Ken was ridiculous in that game. I was the first one to chain combo into super in my area. Nobody knew how to do that. I was starting to learn a lot heavier execution that the scene wasn't even prepared for yet. This is before Alpha 2 came out, mind you, so I didn't even do the customs yet.
Right.
And even though I knew how to land the best combos and how to make everything look flashy and had gimmicks, I still got held down by the top players like John Choi or Watson. So, and the funny thing about this tournament is, I went to Vegas. It was 1995. I'm 17 at the time, so, and I only had barely $100, and I was gonna go there for only a few days. So by the time the tournament happens, you pay the venue fee and you have to pay for your own games. So I ran out of money by then. So it was, I ran out of money by then, but everybody was like, "Oh, hey, here's a quarter, man. We really want to see you play," and everybody was really nice because I was that new kid, right, that was beating everybody, and so I got up to John Choi, and he knocked me into losers. It was really frustrating playing him because it just very reminiscent of when I played Mike Watson for the first time. Every time I thought I had a good jump in, nope, he had a DP ready. Every time that I tried to play footsies with him, he threw a fireball in my face. John is like the best fireball thrower in the game. So, like, I was just, what the hell? I can't play footsies with this guy. I can't engage him because his fireball game is too good. Well, me and Watson were like footsie monsters, right? So we sweep whatever. Our reaction time was ridiculous. Like we see, if you fart, we swept your fart. That's how good it was. But it didn't matter when we played Choi. Like he held us down pretty good. But I got fourth in that tournament. I lost to John Choi and I lost to um, his friend Tony No at the time. So, but I got fourth. I guess you can kind of consider that as a major because there was NorCal and SoCal top players there, and East Coast wasn't really discovered as I guess as a force in the top player realm yet. But that's for another tournament to discuss. It's really interesting how these things grew. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's man, we we started from like video stores and 7-Elevens and burger joints to like arcades to random little arcades at a circus in Vegas or a GameWorks or something. But yeah, that was like my first, I guess, major experience and out of town. So
Yeah, and I mean, and really, ever since that, and I mean, the little tournaments starting up in people's houses. I think final round was it final round that started up in people's houses, and it's just grown into this, great community. We've got these tournaments that are absolutely fantastic, and actually, I mean, you just had a tournament very recently, and you even have your own team, and you have every Wednesday night. You have Wednesday night fights, So yeah, you're doing your own scene out there in California.
Yeah, how's it feel to be just heralded as this figure who kind of gathered all these people together and just make sure that the new blood doesn't really feel that alienated from all the pro players or egotistical people that may be out there, because we all know that there are people out there like that. Like, how does it feel just like kind of make and mold your own brand or your own community into like this really dominant fighting force in the fighting game community?
well, I don't really see it as like the scene owes me anything, or it's more of like Street Fighter 4 came out, right? And I just saw a lot of people suck at it. It just I'm kind of like, you got to understand, Southern California bodied the world of Street Fighter for like over 10 years plus.
Shots fired.
Just there was nobody in the country that could do anything to NorCal or SoCal. It's just the way it was.
No, it's just joking.
No, it's
I'm
just.
teasing.
But so when I saw the new generation play this game, I'm like, what the hell's going on, right? And we would see just random people doing shit. It's very reminiscent of like when Street Fighter 2 came out, right? And now, you think about that. If I could travel back to time, back to when Street Fighter 2 came out, I would look at the scene. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, right? So I had one of those, and I was like, maybe because the arcade scenes that were dying, and at least
Right.
SoCal had a few arcades left. Maybe if I, got the community together somehow, instead of like you're gonna meet once a week at an arcade where if you lose your $1, then you'll never play the game again. Why don't we just get these guys together when the console comes out and have them play against matches that they would never get a chance to play unless they were, I don't know, met at a tournament. And it started at my house, but people were too, I guess, overwhelmed or kind of, hey, I don't want to go to Valle's house. He's just gonna fucking body the shit out of me.
Right.
It feels weird. So started holding it, and I respect that. I started holding it at different venues, like my other friend's house, into and it grew. Like 10, 20 people came, and there was just a lot of interest of people actually trying to get better, and that it became a addicting to others. It's like, man, I'm feeling that I'm learning a lot, about fighting games, and on parallel to that, I also got them to um, build some camaraderie, because these are strangers that just got together to play this game.
Right.
That's another thing that I taught them that they didn't know. I didn't want to bring this up because it sounds, all mushy and shit. Like, oh, hey guys, you can be buddies, but no, you just see all the friends like, hey man, you know, did you eat? Did you want to eat before you play at Wednesday night fights? Oh, cool. All right, and then that's how it starts. And then they discuss strategies, and then they discuss how to beat people at Wednesday night fights, and everything else is history. We just moved him from venue to venue, and we luckily Watson out of nowhere comes around and, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy Super Arcade, and I'm like, hey, fuck, that's fucking amazing. I'm going to let's talk, and we just had a homie handshake, and Wednesday night fights was there. It was just meant to be. Like, we were just gonna meet again because Watson stopped playing competitively for a long time, and I felt like, man, this is pretty much the guy who taught me how to play competitive Street Fighter, and for him to house such like a great opportunity for the community, I just feel that we really need to teach the next generation how to play this game how we used to play it, and if it's not us, who the hell's gonna do it?
Right.
And that's how I feel about this thing. And it's just funny how everything else, just streaming came around, and fuck it, we want to run a major, fuck it, we'll do it. We want to work with the publishers, like, hey, our tournaments are doing pretty well in SoCal, and we have a huge player base. Why don't you showcase your game down here? I'll call up everybody I know. It's like I pretty much have as much reach as Capcom when it comes to the competitive scene. Like if I post something, it's just I don't have the casual guys, I have the competitive guys on board, ready to go, and
Right.
they know. So, but that's how I feel about like this whole community figure thing. Like, hey man, one day when like the next generation of players gets to the leadership role, they're gonna feel the same. I guarantee it. Somebody is.
So today you have a really strong offline scene, but Sorry, I can't speak right now. But the release of Street Fighter 4, of course, brought in a lot of new blood, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about, because I see a question in the chat that I really want to address. The online play. Online players, or online warriors as we call them nowadays.
Yes.
And one special says, Valle, if someone is an online player and doesn't have the resources to travel or play locally, should I quit playing because I feel I can't reach the highest level of competition from playing online? Like, how do you feel about that?
It's not true. Look at Wolfcrown, right? He lives in the Midwest, and at the time the scene wasn't really recognizably strong, but players like that dedicated his time, even going through the hardships of online and playing on pad, has really, put Detroit on the map for that. And his accomplishments, winning online tournaments and freaking placing high in Evo and other winning majors is amazing. It's like, I would have never thought that, because of the lag, we can respect somebody that can play that well. But shit, somebody that does and goes through the hardships of online made it happen. Coming from an OG, I just never thought that it was playable, right? To play
Right.
with lag. And, whoa. Did you guys hear that?
No.
Oh, okay. I think I have something on. All right, and I think somebody's donated, and I have one of my Twitch apps on. Okay, anyways. So you shouldn't quit. The netcode's getting better. You have access to many... let me tell you this. You don't have any arcades, and it's hard for you to reach people to play at your house or at somebody else's house. And what you're gonna play a max of 5 good matchups, right? I don't think anybody has the capacity to learn or have more than 10 good characters on I would say on a casual level. You know, it's just too hard.
Mhm.
You go online, you're gonna play every matchup. Okay,
Right.
at least you'll get the beginning
Some
levels,
experience.
some experience. You get the fundamentals out of it, and that's all you need. Because when you take that to the tournament, you're gonna be like, okay, this guy, you already have some notes on how the matchup should play out, and then if he wins, then you have something to take home and practice again online. So it's not unbearable, I would say, it's these days to play online. Um, I mean, look at PXG online championships. You have people playing in a tournament from all over the country, and you're getting a lot of unknown people challenging some of our top players today, putting themselves on the map, and all they need is just a kick in the ass to get out there. So it's not it's completely viable to play online these days. So keep it up, man.
Yeah, definitely with all these online tournaments, these 24-hour streams, the Peaceful Jays, even like there are a lot of ways to still get better at online. Um, what was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, since you're only one person, so you can't really invite the whole FGC or whoever wants to learn from you over your house. How about some simple fundamental tips for getting better at Street Fighter 4?
Simple fundamental tips. Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay, so when somebody hits me up to train, and they have, I would say, zero knowledge of how to get into this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would really just pick the character that seems interesting, just by look. Start there. Pick that character. Okay, and don't go into the wild yet. If you have the game, of course, you got to go into training mode and just you got to practice your combos, right? You got to practice the ranges of your attacks, right? Now you have that all laid out. You try this stuff online. Just lay it online. Go if you don't want to mess with your ranking, play some endless battles and see how you're connecting these things. Oh, I can't land my combo. Oh, I could land my combo, but maybe I can land a little bit more. Then come back and ask me more questions like, hey, versus like the Zangief matchup, if I'm Ryu, once he has 1 meter and I'm scared to throw fireballs, what do? I'm like, well, he has 1 meter, make him use it. Who cares if he hits you? You know why? Because now he has to play catch up again. He has no more meter to burn, so you can keep chucking fireballs again. Like, oh, okay. So that's how you kind of like assess what you're doing right and wrong. Versus, I'm playing against Rufus. I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, what are you doing? What aren't you doing? You gotta keep asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta assess the problem, right? You gotta assess situations to be like, he keeps dive kicking at me and he keeps blowing my crouch tech up. I'm like, oh, are you using Ryu? Yes, I am. Are you using crouch tech with crouch and strong and throw? Like, oh, okay. Well, that way he can't do double dive kicks. That's how you ask me questions, and that's how I can help you with your journey. A lot of players today what's happening is they're trying to pick a character that everybody's saying is really good, but they can't win because they don't know how to ask the questions. They just assume that they're on this like pedestal that they can play every character because it's just a fucking fighting game. It's much deeper than that.
Right.
It's very, very complicated fighting game. Okay, I think fighting games are more complicated than most any game in the world because you have to play. I mean, your reactions and actions,
Right.
okay, are
You have to
within
adapt fast.
It's
Yeah.
within a second, constantly,
Yeah.
constantly, and the match changes as the spacing changes. There's no time to think. It's like you just have to be on it. So it's really complex on how I train somebody. Like I just don't like, hey, practice his combos and come back at me later or some shit. No, like I'm really have to assess how they're playing this game. I play with them for a little bit. Okay, you can't throw fireballs. You can't play this game yet. I tell them that straight up. Oh, you're playing Guile. You can't throw sonic booms every 2 seconds. You can't play Guile yet. You cannot play this game until you can fully execute all of your character's potential, whether it's combos, special moves, or movement. If you can't do those simple things, you're not ready to play this game. And then once you are, and once you can do that, ask me a question that prevents you from winning the matchup, and in specific. And then and that's even a challenge in itself, because you actually have to analyze, right? You're doing some analyzation when you're telling me this stuff. So you're actually learning as you're telling me, hey, how do I beat Vega's, like if Vega knocks me down with a slide, he can go off the wall. I don't have a DP. What do I do? He's gonna keep doing the Izuna drop over and over. How do I get out of that?
Get a delayed wake up.
Well, I mean, pre USF 4, it was, wait, get up with focus and then backdash. And they're like, oh, okay. So now knowing this, now you can escape certain ambiguous crossups. You can, focus and then delay and then dash, and you at least take one hit instead of a full combo. So that's like the way that I train somebody. I get really into it because I really want you to learn.
Right.
A lot of people have different ways of teaching people. Like, just here's a few tips, learn some combos, play this character because he beats the rest of the cast. And I'm like, you're not really. That's not the long term. That's a short term and maybe a set amount of people. I want you to learn how to play Street Fighter for the long haul. That's why we're very successful in SoCal, grabbing turning casual players into competitive players. So,
would you like to give an example of like a person who came to you and you just kind of like took him under your wing, as he's asking all these questions to you, and you genuinely like saw him progress and get better as time went on?
When the first time I met Online Tony, I have a lot of guys, but I'll tell you some people that are very noticeable. Okay, so Online Tony, I first met him. He was an El Fuerte player, and El Fuerte at the time is like, it kind of overrides everything that I'm teaching, because once you get knocked down, you have to deal with the paper scissors rocks game with him. But I told him that's only going to take you so far. It seems like you're like that cheap player, right? You play Mortal Kombat, you pick the cheapest character. I saw him pick a secondary character, which was Seth, and this was in vanilla. And I saw the things that he was doing. I'm like, that's your character. You need to pick this character and just figure it out, because you have your own strategy. You have your own cheapness about you. You're a fucking scumbag. You play like a fucking scumbag. So, and he's all like, hey, yeah, huh? Yeah, I know, because he knows that, and that's what got him going. I'm like, dude, fucking pick Seth, and I need to see you out in more tournaments, dude. I don't, these little starter local stuff is okay, but I need to see you at the tournaments that I'm at, and I think you're gonna do some damage. And lo and behold, fucking Online Tony. Lo and behold. So this is a lot of cases like that, and even if Chris, he might still be in the chat. Chris Tatarian, the Ken player, he had the longest struggle for so many years using Ken. He couldn't beat certain matchups, and he would get very mad. I'm like, dude, it just reminds me of me when I picked Ken and I couldn't do shit because Watts didn't let me. You're in that same boat, but in this game, you actually have a lot more opportunities to get around shit. In the old games, you didn't. Once you are, there's no supers, there's no comeback factor. So in this game, you got to learn the master level footsies. He wasn't there yet. His execution was, but he always get baited. That was his thing. He always get baited. He always get swept. He always panic on wake up, and all that stuff started to go away every tournament he would enter. And he stuck with Ken, and his character got a little bit better in this version, but it's not that. It's just how his game developed. We kept everybody, not just him, but everybody in Wednesday Night Fights. I'm there. Use me as a resource. Watson's there. Use him as a resource. What am I doing wrong? And then tell me about it. That's why we're there. That's why we're still there, because we had these same problems back then, but we didn't have a mentor like that. So it kind of feels good to guide them in a way where they have our hands now, right? We can't do that shit no more. We don't have the time. But we can always lend our minds to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's always a good feeling.
Some more questions in the chat. Buffalo Knight asks, I've been playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcades. My main is Blanca, and I would say I'm a lower mid-level player. I want to get to that next level, but I can't seem to deprogram the last 20 plus years of habit and reflex. How do you deal with changing your bad habits?
Well, how do you? Okay, so you gotta write down your bad habits, right? That's the step one, and ask yourself why I keep doing it, right? You know that they're there, and it's costing you the rounds, life, whatever. Okay, but you fear that if you don't do these things, some of these things give you the wins, but it's a mind fuck in itself, right? Mm-hmm. Is it that important to like get? It looks like it's you're doing moves in a comfort zone that's giving you some wins here and there versus lower level players. But when push comes to shove, this doesn't really work versus higher level players. So you're gonna have to take a step back from your original plan and pick another set of moves specifically for top players. And it's fine. You can these bad habits are not just bad habits. They actually probably work versus the players that are not in his level or lower. And you can actually save that for those type of players, because in tournament, sometimes the top players they lower their skill level because they don't give you respect if you're a nobody, right? So they're doing all these things that doesn't really make sense, and you can kind of get away with the Blanca shit because Blanca's a troll character, right? And you actually have to be on your toes versus that character because he can get away with murder sometimes. Mm-hmm. Start shaving that life off for a bit, and then with your so-called bad habit moves, and then once the top player figures out that, hey, you're doing stupid shit, then you turn that off and you fucking turn on the top player shit. That's kind of how I guide a player to really address their issues, because it's really hard for somebody to let go of their bad habits. So why don't you work with them instead? You know, it's kind of for instance, for me, sometimes I get in a zone of throwing too many fireballs, right? I'm like, okay, this guy got throwing too many fireballs, and the guy jumps in and he combos me for 50% health, so it's kind of we're even now. In second round, I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm like, okay, is it a bad habit or is it a mindfuck? What am I doing? So I typically play this game on myself. We're in third round. Now we're in third round, and I'm still throwing a lot of fireballs, but however, I have more meter to play with now. So I give a specifics. I try to mirror a same scenario as I did at first and second round, where a jump is obvious, but this time I'm gonna like DP FPDC you because I'm gonna fake the fireball. So I use my bad habit to a turn, I guess, to my trump card. That's kind of like higher end metagame. I don't know if I fucking mind blew you guys, but fucking, I literally, here's an easier example. In third strike versus a Chun-Li player, and I'm Ryu, never throw a fireball versus a Chun-Li with meter, right? However, I knew this player sucked with footsies. However, he evened the score, making me hesitate throwing fireballs. This is early third strike. So you know what? Once he got meter, I just threw the fucking fireball anyways, and I let him fucking ultra 2 me, right? As soon as he was done with his super, I was able to rush him down.
Right, because you had to play the catch-up game to get all that meter back.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. And so that it's good. At this point, it's really hard to tell a Blanca player, hey, what are your bad habits? What are you going to wake up with? Up ball, EX up ball? How many times are you going to do that? Mm-hmm. You know, and how many times are you going to like start backdashing, or how many times are you going to like wake up ultra? I don't know what his bad habits are. It's just you really got to see how much life are you losing with these bad habits. It's okay to do some of these things to catch people off guard, and that's Blanca's game. You actually have to take some of these risks to make them respect you, because a lot of people are just gonna walk up and try to option select Blanca to death, because you can option select them to death, right? But if you just do something that's completely unsafe, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're that type of Blanca," and then that's where you can switch up your strategy. So hopefully that kind of gives them a basis of how to turn on and off your bad habits.
Do you think that players that are just new to the game, or even mediocre players, for lack of a better word, that have plateaued and want to rebuild their fundamentals should pick maybe a sort of like non-conventional character? Because like the example that you said with online Tony, he was an El Fuerte main before he actually switched to Seth. And El Fuerte is rather unconventional because it's really heavy rock paper scissors style. So do you think that people should start with like a basic bare bones character to like relearn like matchups or fundamentals or something?
Um, so about plateaus, so okay, here's the reasons why people plateau. Number one is they cannot um, physically perform the character's optimal, I guess, execution barriers, meaning like the highest damage output for every single situation, movement, everything. They've reached the cap where another player can, right? Number two is they just ran out of knowledge. They just don't know what else to do in a matchup, and that's why a player plateaus. And you can use both hand in hand. Let's say, for instance, how many times can like say me and Chris play Ryu and Ken, right? And it feels that it's a stalemate, right? We go back and forth so many times. There's always something to learn about the matchup. There is always something to learn, and it's just a matter of like, if there is a new frame trap that you can do on me personally, then do it. Versus like the frame trap I know that you're gonna do. Like it's a matter of like Chris has been changing up his, let's just say, what type of combos he does now, depending on what vortex he wants to land, and he constantly reinvents his Ken to do something new, and that's why he can gravitate to that character, like versus any player, right? You don't have to pick a certain character because you feel that if the character is a better fundamental character, zoning and spacing, then you're not really gonna plateau because you have an answer for everything. It's not true. It's mainly how what else can you learn about the matchup and what else can you learn about the player. I usually play the player versus the matchup. The matchup is I know what's coming, I know what this character is capable of, I know what he can punish me for. Now I need to know what this player knows about it and how he can sneakily like make me play his game, right? So I need to hide my trump card versus him. I need to play as basic as possible and beat him before I start letting him know what's coming. So as you can see, like Daigo is one of the best at doing this. He never plays crazy at first, never. He always just plays his basic routine, fireball, low forward, until like he knows that he needs to bring out some bullshit or some fucking like the gimmicks. He needs to bring out the shit that he's been saving himself. Like that's what third round is for. You really save your shit till third round. But in the tournament world, you really have to just beat the player with the most basic stuff, and that's like the most efficient way too, because that way you never let the competitor know what you're doing. In the plateau sense, you should always have a plan, a matchup knowledge per round of what you want to do to win this match, and you can constantly do that. You can constantly do it. It depends on how the competitive edge you have, the motivation you want to play with this character, the higher placements you want. You know, you won't plateau as long as you have those goals. You will plateau is if you find the character boring, you can't do a certain combo, you are tapped out and playing against a fucking Seth that you just don't get. You know, you don't want to learn the vortex mix-ups, you don't want to learn the defense, you don't want to learn how to get at him. So, I mean, this topic you can go on for hours and hours too. So You can, you can.
All right, let me reach into the chat for some more questions. Fried Eel asks, you mentioned being able to rally a large core of the competitive fighting game players, but the casual base isn't as responsive. What do you think would be a good starting point to get people interested in the competitive scene as casual players or spectators? Any websites, streams, or a specific video?
There's no tutorial, at least from the fighting game community, on how to do this. And I can say that we are the last genre to um, kind of promote our scene. Other like let's just take for instance esports or what first person shooters, MOBAs, RTS.
Mm-hmm.
They've done this for years since like the computer days when computers were really hot back then. And they've done podcasts. You know, they've done like they've done everything that we are barely doing now. Okay, so we don't have enough of like spookies. We don't have enough level ups. We don't have enough I play winners. We don't have enough of these guys to promote our scene the way it should be. We just don't. We're not tapped into the mainstream gaming media, right? Like Giant Bomb. Well, when we're in the shitter, we're in Kotaku. So, you know, we're not on Team Liquid. We're not on like On Gamers. We're not on these sites where they cover all of gaming. We have the smallest faction of gaming. It's just not enough content. You might think, oh, we have a lot of content out there. Yeah, we have a lot of fighting match content, but we don't have any personality content. What? Why should the casual audience even care about, you know, us if we're not even promoting ourselves properly? You know, because it's all about the storylines with our tournaments, not just the match footage. The match footage is amazing, but for a casual person, they're not gonna know what the hell's going on. It's just it looks cool, and then the replay factor is not gonna be that cool after the second glance. Mm-hmm. It's not like, say, for instance, the Daigo versus Justin Wong parry. You see the crowd cheering for that. That's like, wow, a lot of people are into this. This is crazy. What's going on? And so there's an interest to see, hey, what is that blue thing that Ken is doing when Chun-Li is kicking? A lot of people are doing their research now. Oh, that's a parry. That's how you tell a story. There's not enough of this going on with our tournaments. And that's one of the reasons now that I'm trying to evolve every year, like at least for our programs, we're trying to evolve the way that we present local tournaments with Wednesday Night Fights, to Run Back, Super Smash Sundays, with SCR, the way that we present hosting and all this stuff, because we have some experience with the industry now, how they present games to the public at trade shows. So we just started, for instance, a new episodes within Wednesday Night Falls called the Grudge Matches. We successfully made 2 lower level players exciting. That has really never been done before, unless like you have Yipes, you know, doing his boom bam, you know, like he's adding his commentary into it, right, to make a whack match interesting. Well, we're doing that now, and we've, you know, I've interviewed the players. I know these players because they go to Wednesday Night Fights every week, and they have some beef with each other because they think they're better than each other. You know, that's just the basis of Street Fighter. Everybody should believe they're better than another person. Just the basic competitive need that gets us interested in our players. So, for instance, next week, or actually tomorrow, is Low Tier God versus Alex Myers. And they have some online shit where Alex Myers wants to play this guy with his best character, but Low Tier God says, no, you're not even worthy of playing my fucking character because I believe your Sakura is a scrubby ass Vortex character. So he's talking shit to this guy. It's interesting, right? And these type of things aren't presented to the masses. Nobody knows about this shit except our own scene. Mm-hmm. But nobody promotes this. Nobody does this. So maybe if it was on a major broadcast entity like ours, on Wednesday Night Fights, then people can finally get to know who these players are, what the beefs are. Why should you focus? Why would you want to watch Wednesday Night Fights anymore? Because, you know, Street Fighter 4 is an old game. How many tournaments can you watch? And how many times can you see Chris and Snake Eyes at the end? Mind you, they're amazing players. I love watching them play every weekend, but that's just me, and that's just one audience. But the casual audience, that's going to turn into Resident Sleeper. They're just going to be like, oh, it's the same thing. It's Zangief, it's Ken. It's Zangief, it's Ken. It's Sagat, it's Zangief. It's Zangief, it's Ken. They're just going to see it that way.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I know that we're inevitably going to present our players better, and Evo does a horrible job too, to be honest, when it comes to showcasing who our top players are. Top 8, they're the best players in the world, but they have the worst presentation, the worst, because they deserve much better. They deserve a pre-interview. They deserve a post-interview. They deserve hype videos for each of those players. But there's none of that. Evo is limited to their resources. Of their production company is not doing that either. I mean, they have too much. Like Spooky and I Play Winner, they have a huge burden on them to make sure that the match footage is more important than everything else, and it's hard. It's a give and take, and the reason I say it's horrible as far as like presenting our players is because we would have an influx of more casual people to watch this if we knew who Snake Eyes was. If we knew, well, everybody knows who Daigo is, but that's like the most well-known player in the world is who Bonchen is, who Zien is. Even though he won Evo last year, people don't know much about him. So maybe next year Evo we would have more presentation features that showcases who these players are, and that's what we're working at now.
That's great.
Barely. Yeah, barely.
You know, and it sounds too, I mean, in addition to like all these like intro and outro videos and everything, it's got to be hard to try to keep everything on a timetable too, so that it still can run, smoothly, on top of the fact that hopefully, some of these companies that are going to be, or that are in the community, can start, sponsoring some of this and donating some money so that we can be able to make all these different, available options to showcase, our top American players, top overseas players, have proper representation for these guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, I mean, well, say this SCR, a simple thing that we added before the players played their top 8, we had Gutex and Mike Ross just go down the line. Hey, congratulations on making top 8. Who did you beat to get up here, and what character do you play? And so the guy had enough time to say, hey, my name is so and so. I'm from here. I beat, this player, and my main is Batman, right, or an Injustice, and that's it. And then now the viewers know, oh, hey, I like that character. Oh, hey, I live in Florida too, or hey, I live in Michigan. Hey, I live in New York. Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna root for that guy, because as soon as top 8 starts, it's just the commentators, and it's a huge burden on them too. It's a huge burden on the commentators to try to know everybody in the community. It's a burden on the streamers too to have this pre-production footage ready, because we don't know who's going to make top 8, right? It's
Right.
a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I'm not talking trash on Spooky and I Play Winner. It's just I know how much work that is doing Evo. They already have their hands full. There's no more things that they can add to that, because Evo is fucking ginormous. And it's just coming from a casual perspective, though, it needs a lot of work. It does. It's just not enough. If you really want to grasp the mainstream of competitive gaming or esports or whatever you want to call it, we need to know who's playing. We really do. And we're 2015. We're gonna make that a really big effort from us to make sure that everybody knows who's playing at every tournament that we produce.
Now, speaking about competitive playing, at your tournaments, you're changing the platform of your competitive playing onto computers. And really, aren't we one of the last, or not the last, competitive scene in the video game industry that is not competing on computers?
Yes. We are That is correct. We were born in the arcades to playing competitively, right? And then we had to wait till 2000, the year 2000, to get the same type of port from the arcades. The same like alphas. The alphas weren't even that great until the 2000. That game came out in 1995 through 97 was the lifespan of Alpha 1 through Alpha 3. Um, think about that. So computers, nobody really played these games, or maybe emulators, but nobody played them competitively on computers. And then now PS2s came out and the Tekkens, and everything was starting to become arcade perfect, but it was still console. And but some games were console exclusive, and some had many versions of games. So Street Fighter 4 was on PS3, Xbox 360, and now PC. And I think it's just a perfect timing for us to start playing on PC now with the release of Ultra, because I mean, think about it. 2 years ago, when AE 2012, if I were to say, "Hey, Wednesday Night Fights is going on PC 2 years ago," do you think anybody would buy it? Probably not. I don't think so. It's not tested. It wasn't tested at the time. Not that many people knew if that version was even any good. So it was Ryan Hart and PR Rog that were the ones that I did my research on about the legitimacy of Street Fighter 4 on PC. And I played with them on it, and it was amazing. It was the same thing, but way better graphics. And then I'm like, okay. And I heard the net code, at least before whoever botched the Steam version up, was really, really good. When it was on Microsoft Live or something, whatever
Games for Windows Live.
Yeah, Games for Windows Live. Yeah, sorry. It was really, really good then. And okay, cool. So I had that in my mind, hey, if the next Street Fighter game, I didn't even know Ultra was coming out yet. If the next Street Fighter game goes on PC, we should give it a shot. Ultra came out, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's perfect. And I saw the release date, and I'm like, you know what? I think it's time for the community to play on a platform that is predominantly used worldwide for competitive gaming. Why not? And we didn't have that problem playing PS3 at Street Fighter 4 because Evo was on fucking PS3 at the time. I hated the shit out of that. When they announced that, I'm like, that's garbage, because I knew Xbox was the superior console off the bat. So we stuck with it for SCR and Wednesday Night Fights events for Xbox, and everybody started to gravitate to Xbox after a while. Because remember, every tournament had PS3s in the first few years.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I'm like, okay, because I'm a quality monster when it comes to if I can't play this game like the arcades, I don't even want to bother playing this shit. So is PR Rog. If the game sucks, if it's a shitty ass port, he will not play it. And I was very skeptical, with the PC version, with that in mind. But I did my testing, and I'm like, dude, this is actually really good, and it's gonna work out. With that said, when you think of fighting games on PC, a lot of casual people don't know this, but you can optimize the PC to not only look better, to load better, and mod. Let's just say if you want those crazy skins, you can do that. You can even put your own music in there if you want. You can do whatever you want to it, right? I know it probably won't be sanctioned by actual Capcom events, but it's freaking 1080p, right? If you're a resolution monster, it looks amazing.
And technically too, can't you get it to play if you wanted to, like a PlayStation, or you could get it to play, like the 360?
Yes. So the controllers, I would say 90% of the most used fight sticks out there work. So if you have a native Xbox 360 stick, well, that's already native to if you're using Windows, it's native to its drivers. so it's gonna detect as an Xbox controller. If you have a PS3 stick, as long as it's not the first 2 generations of Mac has 5 sticks, according to Markman, he said it's the Chun-Li stick and above are fine to use PS3 Mac has sticks, and then the combos and that have dual mods, those work. And speaking of dual mods, if you have like an old school like Cthulhu or the PS360 Plus, once you plug that stick in, if you go to the options in button config and move the selection of what stick you plugged in, it will show you the mod that you're using. That's fucking pretty sick. So, yeah, I mean, usability is there, optimization is there. Netcode is definitely not there yet. It should have been. I don't know. Complete transparency. It's botched up, but Capcom has taken notice of it and has ran this beta to try to fix the network issues. So hopefully we'll hear back on like of any fixes soon. Because I know they went on Steam and they allowed everybody to jump on and to get their feedback. So, and it works out for us on a local level. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend it right now on a larger scale event because the only extra step and the only bad thing about PC version is the button config and how you have to exit the game, plug in your controller, let the drivers install, and then turn on the application. On console, it's just plug and play. You can plug and play your stick in right away. So it just takes an extra step. That's why you see on Wednesday Night Fights that it takes a little bit longer for players to button config. Yeah, to ready up because it's their first time button mapping. They don't know how to button map correctly. So that's another thing. It's like convincing casual audience to button mapping. It takes time. So besides the logistical part of the PC, a lot more opportunities open up from there. Now instead of depending on first party, which is Sony and Microsoft, now with PC you have the PC components and their peripherals. So you have graphic cards, you have, even though you have mice and keyboards, they're still affiliated with the PC. You still need the mouse and keyboard to ready up, to launch the application or to play other games. As long as you're on PC, to play the game, you may need a mouse and keyboard. So that's viable sponsorship opportunities. You have monitor companies are more willing to work with PC. They're already attached by the hip at a lot of esports events like BenQ, Asus, and stuff like that. And it's to say there's even power surge companies out there that the ones where they had a UFGT. I forgot.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So they prevent from stations from powering off. And so, I mean, the sky's the limit, and there are more PC fighting games that are coming out down the road. Like Street Fighter 4 is not the only one that we added on Wednesday Night Fights. We also added Yatagarasu, and that game is not released yet. But we wanted to get our feet wet and getting more fighting games on PC. I know they're like Mortal Kombat and Injustice are also on PC, but like they're on their last legs already, right? I mean, they're already used to playing on PS3 or Xbox, so we just kept it on there. But Mortal Kombat 10 and Tekken 7 are coming out for PC, so we're ready for that. This whole thing is not a coincidence. It's just inevitable. Our scene is progressing, and if it's not us to go PC, somebody else would. And I mean, I would rather take the first shot at it because I'm really concerned about the scene's future. If PC sucked, I would let the world know, like, hey, you know what? Maybe this is not the best
idea.
It was a bad idea. Let's go back to Xbox. But I mean, I'm taking the chance, and the scene is open about it now, and I'm really happy that they are. So, I mean, it's just a matter of now, what's the next game that's going to be on PC, and what type of support is it going to get?
Well, I think that, and for the rest of the tournaments to be able to switch over to PC, I think that's going to be in probably about 2 years, just because of the initial investment it's going to take even to, be able to switch over. That's going to take a little bit of time, but, in the meantime, we can figure out what all the issues are and try to work through them all.
Yeah, that's just our growing pains. A PC world, it wasn't a walk in the park for them either. Even with their games today, there are so many network issues, and even their application issues. Like there's blue screening, there's desyncs, there's a lot of issues with these games, and that's why there's so many different types of tournament organizers for esports events. There's the technical side. We don't even have a technical TO. There is such a thing as that. Okay, like these are people that pretty much troubleshoot every PC for whatever um, whatever bad thing happens to them. And it can be over our heads. It can be like I said, a blue screen issue. It can be an audio issue. It can be a driver issue. It can be
Oh my.
peripheral issue. It can be so many different variables, but they've been doing this for years. We're just beginning to get there. So of
Oh, that
course,
sounds kind of
yeah,
scary.
no, it does sound scary, but look where they are now.
Yeah.
Look where they are now, and how much support they got, and look how big the community is. Look at the accessibility that PC games get over us. Like in, say Street Fighter 5 goes down the road, we turn that sucker on, and then we know what sanctioned tournaments are on immediately. What
Yeah.
the most popular personal streams are on, like a Street Fighter 5, um, intro UI. All right. Oh look, it's Cross Counter is on. Oh look, Spooky's on. Oh look, Level Up is on. Oh look, like as soon as you turn Street Fighter 5 on, I think that's harder for consoles to do because they're limited to what how big the licensing goes. PC, it's up for grabs. Steam is free, right?
Yeah.
Steam is free. PlayStation 4, if to play online, you have to purchase PlayStation Plus now. PS3 is still free, but PlayStation 4 for the next gen games, these are things you have to worry about. Xbox Live,
Mhm.
that's $49.99. Steam is free. So, I mean, we can talk all night about the whole PC stuff, but you know what? Like at this point, I'm just gonna I'm gonna save some of the good stuff I have planned for the. I have a blueprint of what I'm gonna do with the PC stuff, and I mean it's no surprise that we're trying to, um, you know, learn as much as we can with Wednesday Night Fights and the run back, and see what we can do, if we can do anything for SCR, if it's even logistically sound, if Alienware or whoever wants to back us up and see that the fighting game community is that untapped market of people that don't have PCs or unaware of what the capabilities of what PCs can do in the gaming world. So
It's a shame because I see a couple people in the chat saying, what's your next big move? The big move for Level Up. I mean, you just came off of a really great and really successful major. So what's next on this road to innovating and making the brand a lot more better?
man, there's like okay, there's so many avenues. I guess in the fighting game community sense, we are still we are still looking to progress the scene. Like every year, like as I already mentioned before, we're still looking to like trying to add a new element or a new feature where, hey, I understand that the scene is around and I'm very interested in it. How do you get this message across? Okay, because the games, I think everybody's still kind of stuck on like, well, people should be interested in the games to an extent, and then we have the personalities behind it too. We have people that are don't have jobs that are playing games and that's all they do, and there's people that are doing streams. They don't have jobs. It's all they do. And then there's this, in a way, we're gonna, if, in a perfect world, we'll probably create more jobs by doing what we're doing. You know, where, look at James Chen and Ultra David, right? They were flying across country for free, right? And now, you know, they've built such a brand where to get them, it's you know, for the Capcom Pro Tour events, you know, they have a certain negotiation with them to get them to certain events, and I'm sure this goes with the TLs too. You have personalities that you kind of need at some of these events, and some that you don't. And then there's streamers, of course. You know how long that us and the Spooky's been working for free to like get this awesome content out there. Maybe when somebody, you know, that has a good business model wants to, like, hey, you guys are producing a show which actually makes sense. You know, we can present our brand there because you are building a promise that gaming is what you guys do. You guys have an amazing a global audience. Okay, you have a global audience that buys our products, which are, who knows, freaking deodorant, shampoo, freaking candy, fast food. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have to create these opportunities. We have to like build a product, and that's what it is, right? We have to freaking create a show, and that's what we call our tournaments now. We call our tournaments a tournament show, and one day we're gonna have, hopefully one day we'll have somebody that can like, hey, we want to throw X amount of dollars into your pot because your players have worked so hard to like get there. And that's what these esports events do, like Monster Energy Drink, right? They throw in hundreds and thousands of dollars a year in gaming and support players like EG because they are global. Their audience is global. They have reach in Korea, Japan, Europe, USA. They have streamers that stream in different time zones for different genres of gaming. Who else does that? The fighting game community does that worldwide. It's getting there, but how are they presenting it? Not to the level that esports is. And that's why they're getting the support. We are not, because we have not built that type of product. We're not on that level yet, but it's coming.
Now, okay, so when you're saying not necessarily at that level yet, and I really don't pay attention to any of the other gaming communities, but when I think of us, I think we're kind of like the WWF. You know, everybody has a persona. We kind of go out there, you know, there's different rivalries, things like that going on. I mean, when I think of hype, I think of the FGC, but like I said, I've never really paid attention to any of the other communities. So, I mean, are they even as exciting? I don't want to say are they as exciting as we are, but
do they have the grudge matches?
Yeah, I mean,
right,
come
okay.
on, we're full of freaking hype.
Okay, no. I'm gonna tell you this right now. There is nobody like the fighting game community. The fighting game community, in my opinion, is the best entertainment. Is the best. Okay, like I've been so I can go back there, but the other esports events, the reason why they're so big and they're so entertaining to them is because there is a year-long storyline with their events. Year-long. So every day of the year or every week, there is something going on with a team. Somebody's posting out content about their team, what they're doing, how they're training, what's their next event. And they are making so much content that they're building a fan base. We have no fan base. I mean, if you go to YouTube, you go to Daigo, oh, you appreciate how he plays, but he's such a robotic guy. But he's an exception, though. When he plays, it's art. You know, like, how do you... That's, like, the optimal way to play fighting games, through somebody who plays games that well. And then you have, like, say, you know, Justin Wong, right? He's very well known, but he's not really a hype guy. His game speaks out for himself, but he's, you know, we love him, I love him, but, I mean, is he entertaining enough for people to keep following him? You know, he's not producing as much content as he should. He's trying to. He's doing more so than a lot of people, but the entertainment factor is not there. He's limited for what he can do. He there's nobody that's going to produce content for him. He has to do video editing on his own, right? He has to stream on his own with limited technical capability. I'm the same way. I'm not super tech savvy. I can only do what I can. That's why I have genius co-founders which know the technical aspects of it. So I'm just like in awe that we have so much excitement for our games and so much hype, yet we have a little viewer base, and it's because we don't have that content. And the flip side, what's exciting for the esports guys is that buildup. So that buildup, when like StarCraft, people are building their own little bases, right? And this all build up until the first contact, and then you see them get hype. That's a different type of hype. That's like golf. Golf has it is like golf, or it's like tennis, right? You can't really clap until the point is made after a while. And it's comparing different sports, from like football, the baseball to basketball. Like us, we're like football and basketball, to be honest. It can be constantly like basketball, or it can be like football. It kind of zones out until the big play and boom. It's fucking amazing. That's why I love the FGC, because you never know what you're gonna get. Right. You don't, and it's but we can get there. And what the question that you asked before, what's next for us? That's what's next for us, is to bring the scene to that next level. And I'm not getting any younger, guys. I'm really not. And we're having players that have played fighting games for 10+ years. They're owed something for that time. I mean, they've given us so much excitement over the years on videos, but the world is yet to meet them in another way.
That is true.
Yep.
Katie.
Yes.
You look like you're falling asleep a bit over there.
No, I was just thinking, because I didn't know if we were starting to run over time, if Alex wanted to keep talking, or if we were gonna keep going, or it's your call. Well, Alex, do you want to keep going, or it's up to you, because I know we had originally said it was going to be like an hour, and it's been like an hour and a half. I can keep talking. It doesn't make a difference to me. Now I'm blushing, and everybody can see it on camera.
I get a few more minutes, because I
Okay.
gotta eat some dinner.
Oh, of course.
Actually, I have something I want to say real quick.
Sure.
My first tournament, I had met Alex, and it was the Evo in the Rio Hotel. I don't remember what year it was. It might have been 2011.
Sure. Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Alex basically taking me under his wing and introducing me into what the FGC is, I can honestly say I don't think I would have kept an interest in it. And I just always wanted to say, thank you for like introducing me to what the tournament scene actually is, what, money matches and everything actually is. And really, because I had absolutely no clue, and then when I saw what this community was, about, and all the people and everything involved, and I thought, man, this is something that, I want to put time into and try to get better, and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm glad you're, continuing to play fighting games and doing the things that you do. And to me, I don't look at you as a girl playing fighting games. You're a gamer, okay, like me. And it just takes me back when I entered an arcade, and like nobody really gives you a time of day just by looks. However, once you play the game and show what you got, all of a sudden you're respected, and that's just the way that it goes. As you play the games, you attempt to play the games, 100% respected in the community. That's how I see it. You're giving the scene a shot.
Yeah.
Let me ask one more question, and then we can wrap up things for this show. Diz88 as since I spend a lot of time with school and work, I have very little time to put into Ultra. Is it still possible to level up, and what is the best way to do so?
This question is what's most important to you, and you're juggling school and work, so games actually should be, in my opinion, and if you're really young, um, games should be on the lower end of your priority list because games aren't going anywhere, but your time is. And if you're not working or if you're not getting your work done or you're not studying to your highest potential, then you're gonna miss out on life when you grow up because it's just the way it is. And I wish I could tell myself back then. I would have taught myself CSS and all these different type of programming languages and um, how to I wish I went back in time to tell myself like, hey, I'm gonna be doing this down the road. So fuck, I need to learn how to use computers. Like I, and think about that. And versus, hey, I'm gonna get that fame and glory, right? Playing these games. What is that really gonna do? I mean, I'm kind of an exception because shit, I fucking actually won shit for one, and two, um, I was just lucky too. I met amazing people that led me to industry folk, and but I wouldn't have got there with just the the work that I've done in the past. I used to be a sales manager at Coca-Cola. I used to work for publishers. I used to sell mortgages. I was really I'm a pretty good salesman actually in my past. Okay, and I brought that with working with video game publishers, kind of meshed into what I do now. Um, so without that part of my life, there's no way I could have started Level Up. I would still play games and have some kind of a sales job, and you know what I mean. And that really didn't give me fulfillment. So, but if you do want to take games to the next level, you might want to consider studying. Take your studying in that direction. If you want to do the marketing, if you want to do development, what do you want to do? Why? If games is what you have to do at the end of the day, then you might want to align your job and your study, your education to that direction.
All right. So that's cool. Thanks, Valle. That makes sense. It's really really good having someone wise, especially really well versed in how real life is, and how video games or competitive video games work, and how well they can mesh together. Makes for a lot of good wisdom to share with casual and pro players alike.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody has so much potential in what they do, but they get lost into they get lost in having too much fun all the time. It's not just about fun; it's about exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
And with that being said, we did run way past our amount of time, but we got a lot of information out there. I want to thank Mr. Alex Valle for joining us on this session of Meter Burn. Do you have any last words or anything you want to say to people out here?
Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope some of the things I said click because I'm just really excited where the scene is going, and how big our player base is. So just pay attention to and support all the streamers as much as you can. The Spookies, the I Play Winners, the Tough Cookies, the Topangas, all of us, because there's not that many of us. Like let the world know when our broadcasts are on. That way, there's more visibility. Or even a tweet or a Facebook post. It never hurts. It never hurts. A share button, a follow, everything is positive. So thank you guys for tuning in.
One of the best ways to spread that amount of information is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
Katie, you got anything to say to our adoring fans out there?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, it was an honor having you on the show and everything and hearing all the new developments and stuff, that you're doing. That's super awesome. And This Saturday, I'm going to be at Rumble in the Tundra, and that's in Buffalo, New York. If you guys are interested, give Cha Cha a shout out on Facebook, and shoot up for a Rumble in the Tundra. And yeah, and I hope we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks, right, Bobby?
Yes, our next session is going to be September 30th, so right at the end of the month. So make sure to be clicking that follow button if you really liked what we did here. And also, Wednesday Night Fights is tomorrow night. So be sure to follow Alex Valle at Alex Valle SF4 on Twitter. And be sure to like the Level Up Live series on Twitch and Facebook. And yeah, you guys have a Twitter, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. It's Level Up Series is our Twitter, and if you want to follow me, it's Alex Valle SF4 on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. So without further ado, I'm going to let Alex eat his dinner right now.
I appreciate it, guys.
I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this session of Meet and Burn. Take care of yourselves, guys, and we'll see you next session.